ahead and call the, this joint committee meeting to order. This is the Senate Ports and Marine and the House Marine Committee meeting. Earlier this year, usually what happens is before the session starts, we have a meeting at DMR and they lay out their general legislative priorities for the session. We weren't able to get that scheduled this year. So in the interest of time, we went ahead and scheduled a joint meeting of the two House and Senate committees, and to let the department go ahead and lay those priorities out for us, and see what we can and can't do to help the department accomplish its mission. So, General Spraggins, the floor is yours.
Okay, now well, thank y'all very much, and yeah, I would just like to cover a few things here. We have a few bills that we're looking at. Mainly, it's just some clarifications on a few of them. It's just some updated of the bills and not something new, but we'd just like to cover them if you have time for that, sir. Okay, the first one is it's the section code for 491584, and it's requirements for taking of crabs and crab traps. Basically, what we're talking about, a lot of the change there is changing the word commission to department, since now the department makes a decision. And then if you look on the next page, if you go over, you'll see under item 2, on the second page there, it talks about license holder. What we mean there is a change. Now it says household. All right, so if what we're trying to do is to the license holder, because it's jeopardizing the people when they have more than one person that have, license for that. So I think it would help the fishermen to be able to harvest more and make it better. That's a major change in that, other than changing the commission side of it. Is any questions on that? Okay, right. I'm batting 1,000. I better go home. And all right, the next one is section 491546, and it's to authorize the printing of oyster tags by the catcher with approval of the tags and the procedures by the department. What it amounts to, we have a lot of people that, especially when we get this on bottom leases and all going correctly, the people will be able, if they have the machinery to do it or the capability, for them to print their own tags. And it would have to be tags that they would print with their name and to have their license number on it and then their numbers on it. It would still come through the department, but it would keep them from having to come down and come to the department, pick up tags or anything else. And once we get this started with a large oyster harvesting, especially with the on bottom of the large companies, this should be a big benefit for the people, the processors, the people that have got harvesting. Any questions on that? Oh man, I tell you what, I know I'm fixing to go home now too. All right, the next one is 491564-1, and this is allowing shrimping with a cast net within a half a mile of the shoreline. Now, what it states is that basically you can't do anything within a half a mile. Well, a cast net's not going to hurt anything. And so basically what we're trying to do is change the wording to be able to take it to where we can do a cast net inside of a half a mile. If you're going to do the trawls and all, it's still a half a mile. It's not going to change anything about what the big shrimper, what they're doing. It's a person throwing a cast net. That's the only thing it means. And so it allows them to be able to cast a net from a pier somewhere or whatever. Any questions? Something that you can throw yourself. And, it's not like a seine or something, not like a big net that you put out and hook and go to one end or the other. And Patrick, you're a law enforcement fire, is that correct? Okay.
And the revision here is just to allow, or is to close those waters to shrimp trawling. So
right.
Really, the cast netting is sort of implied. Maybe we should use some, just for the sake of enforcement, maybe we should use some affirmative language authorizing and defining that term in that section.
Yeah, if you look on like the 4th page there, I think it is at the bottom under 3, it says it changes recreational shrimping to shrimp trawling. And right. By saying shrimp trawling, that means that you got to be a half a mile for trawling, but you don't if you're just doing shrimp. Somehow or other over the years, the word shrimp shrimping, eliminated the cast net.
One of the most important things about it is the people on the Gulf Coast who come visit the Gulf Coast has a chance to enjoy the waterways instead of going on some paid charter trips. That's one of the most important things. We should do everything we can do to make sure that the people who live on the Gulf Coast or visit the Gulf Coast have the flexibility and legality to enjoy the waterways like everybody else, correct?
Any other questions on that? Okay. Well, 3 for 3, I'll tell you what, here we go. We're gonna either home run or not. And, next one is, it's basically a code section to be changed, and it's numerous, as you can see there, that we're looking at. To put it in the, 30,000 viewpoint of it, viewpoint, the idea is right now, whenever we do, administrative hearing or any type of stuff, it basically, what it does, it comes to the director. The director then would give it to the commission, and the commission would make a decision on it, and that would be finalized. Well, now, since that commission is authority only, that does not happen. It comes to the director gives it to commission, and the director decides whether it's good or not. Well, you know, it's not it needs to have another person involved. And so we're looking at, basically putting a compliance officer in there to have it where it would go to a compliance officer picked by the department, and then they would turn around, take it to the commission, and then the commission would bring it to the director, and the director would say, yes, I agree with this or don't. And that's the way it should work. And it takes that, as it is now, I'm saying I want it, and then I say I'm gonna approve it, you know, or not approve it. So it just a little bit. And I'd be honest with you, Sandy's here with me too, and Sandy's our legal, Sandy Chestnut, and basically, we'd like to get out of administrative. That would be nice because, you know, for us to be able to do that. Sandy, you want to talk a little bit about it? You might want to use the mic.
Past, or when the commission changed the functions, we had an AG's opinion done. It was informal, but did have that done. And what they found was that there's a due process issue because of the change in the role. Because like he said, it goes to him, he decides whether there's merit, and then it goes to the commission. They recommend what should happen, which goes back to him, and he makes that decision. So we wanted there to be separation from it starting with him and then coming back to him. So that's what we're trying to accomplish.
What type of issues are these license issues? Are these issues with licensees? Are these permitting issues? What type of issues are coming?
These most typically will be permitting issues. Like when we have to take a violation on a permit, you know, wetlands permit, then those go in front of the commission, and this process would serve that. Now, it could also apply to some charges that Marine Patrol writes that they don't take to court for some reason. Those are very few and far between, and that's the ones the directors say we want to get out of that as much as possible. We'd rather just all of them go to court, but we do still have to have administrative hearings from time to time on permit violations and things like that.
Okay. This compliance officer, is this an existing employee? You're not looking for another employee, you're not looking to hire
It
anyone?
would be someone we assigned. It could be Patrick, who's our chief operations officer, or someone else, that we would put in charge of that. And that it would basically be that it goes to them first. They look at it and say it has some merit, then they, take it to the commission, and commission bring it to me, and I either agree or disagree with it.
On this cover sheet, it's got a potential jurisdictional conflict with the Wetlands Protection Act. Sandy, what does that mean? What is the conflict, I guess?
We would have some work done on the wet protection act itself, because we are very clear about how that process. It really doesn't become a problem until it actually gets report on appeal from the director. So like if they want to go ahead and appeal the director, they appeal.
Right.
And then that's when we can have a problem for really dive.
This is again on permitting,
Yeah,
wetland permitting issue.
this is like the first step to be able to do that deep dive into the wetland protection portion.
Okay. And I'd be happy to work, we'll be happy to work with you to try to address both the secondary part, the Coastal Wetlands Protection Act part, but also to make sure that we don't create, because just at first blush, you've got an employee who's still an employee of the commission, who the executive director is still his boss. Yeah, I've just got some questions there on how that would work. And what role the commission plays in that.
I mean, it's that's the Edith.
And I would be happy to take a look at it, work with you.
Okay. Any other questions on that? All right. We never hit a home run or a grand slam, but okay. All right, that's all the bills that we have, sir, and, obviously, if you could consider to, basically filing those bills, I think I talked to, Chairman Aronson, he said that he's already filed. Is that correct?
I dropped them to get them, at least get them moving. Legal was on my butt for holding bills back. I'm gonna break the ice on something, and this is something you and I have talked about are you finished with that portion, General? No, I have a different area I'd like to cover while we're here, especially while Sandy's here. You and I have talked about, let me back up. I had the privilege of getting called to the Pass Harbor last week, and I went down there and sat a couple of the brick and mortar processors down there. You and I, a couple of years ago, I tried addressing with you on the crab law. I sat down there the other day. I watched a boat come in, Louisiana plates, loaded up his truck with crabs straight off the boat and rolled out the dock. And they say that it happens more and more and more often. As Marine Resources, we're holding brick and mortars to a whole different standard than we are the average. I'm going to use crabs for an example because that's why I was there. But you and I had discussed this law several years ago that the commission had put in place, allowing some of this to happen, and we still haven't addressed it or fixed it. And as a compliance and enforcement of Marine Resources, we're holding brick and mortars to a different standard than we are an individual who just has a crab boat, runs out there, throws the crabs in back his truck and drives off. So can we I see you wanting to talk, Patrick. Come on.
Well, I can tell you right up front, the difference in dealer and a dealer's a dealer, right? And if you have a dealer's license and you're driving that truck and you pick it up and you take it, that's no different than that dealer that's sitting on brick and mortar. Where the difference is whether you're a processor. And then most of the brick and mortar have some form of process. And the process, once you start doing any type of process to the crab itself, then it becomes an entirely different, and it had to be FDA approved and it has to be inspected. And So the problem is, it's not whether or not we treat them any different. No, we're not. The dealer that goes in with a pickup truck and gets his and goes down the road and sells them is under the same thing that dealer with brick and mortar is. It's a matter of what that brick and mortar, most of them are doing something more than a dealership.
But I think we're speculating that the gentleman in the pickup truck is not a processor, but he is allowed to harvest crabs from Mississippi waters with, I think, a little bit lower level of regulation than we are holding our facilities to, which is great. We need to, because we're selling a product to Mississippians and all over this country. But we're allowing, you know where I'm going, because you and I have talked about this several years ago. So I figured now was a good opportunity, and Sandy, I think you and I had a discussion maybe a year or two on the phone about this same particular thing, and I don't think anything's changed since we talked about it 2 years ago.
But it's not just for the crab, it's also with if it's shrimp, the same way. You know, that person can go down and buy shrimp off of a boat that's sitting there at the dock, and he can take that and go out here and then bring it to Jackson, Mississippi and sit on the side of the road and sell it.
But I think there was wasn't there a whole different standard in crab than shrimp there was? Sandy? Correct me if I'm wrong. You and I talked about this, and I'm
Now,
trying to refresh my memory.
pork is entirely different.
I mean, I'm gonna get into that next, because I got a guy that's running a generator and a conveyor unloading crabs down there at Bayou Caddy on a piece of property. Watched him personally too, so.
Patrick, I know from your law enforcement world, is anything we leaving out of here?
It's been rewritten. I'm almost positive. It was something the commission had created when they still had authority to create. And it never went back to the way that it originally was under how the law was written. And we're still allowing this to do that.
I met with Mr. Fort yesterday from down at Pass Harbor.
Okay?
And we talked about this in depth, about what was going on, and also about what, the situation was. We are looking into it. I had Rick Burris, my chief scientific officer. I said, I want you to look at this. I want you to see where we're at. Is there anything that we need to change? Is there something that we're doing? So I don't have all the answers to that yet, but I know we're looking at it as we speak for the asking.
Well, I'm puzzled at that, because I've sat down with the attorneys, and I think we clearly came up with something that if we weren't in full compliance, let me say, can you recall this conversation we had? I remember speaking to you on the phone for a long period of time. All right, can we kind of address that?
We are addressing it, and we will definitely get you an answer.
And then secondly, as I just kind of mentioned in the middle of that, this is more of a complaint on my side, I guess. I have a gentleman oystering throughout the Bayou Caddy region who has a vacant piece of property. He's running a conveyor with a generator, unloading the boat, throwing his oysters in the truck and driving off. Watched two boats unload. Is that an enforcement thing that we need to report, or how we handle this situation? I mean, we can't be allowing that, and then, like I said, hold a whole bunch of other people on this coast or our coast to different standards. Have you heard of that complaint? Have you seen that complaint?
We definitely check into it. It's in Bayou Caddy area.
I'll get you the information and address on it.
We'll definitely look into it, because any type of handling of oysters is an entirely different world.
I'm very familiar.
They meet certain criteria, no matter what you're doing by transporting those oysters. So they have to be refrigerated an X amount of time. There's a lot of things that have to happen, and we would definitely like to look at it.
I'll get that information. I'll forward to you or Patrick.
promise you, we'll look at it ASAP. We'll get it.
Well, I appreciate if you could follow back up on me with that crab law. I'd appreciate it, and I can give Mr. Porter a couple other people some answers.
Okay?
General, do you want to go into the bottom lease revisions? that the-
Yes,
that we're
I,
working through?
yes, I'd be glad to. And, just to give you, you know, we did go out and we did an RFP to do, lease. But, we've had some issues with it and we're looking at it right now and, we're trying to decide what's the best way to do, which way to go with it. One of the things that we looked at is the changing of our statute. And you know, some of the statute that we have right now that was written last year, in which, I know everybody tried as hard as they could to possibly come up with a way to, make it read the right way. And then, but this is a new ground for us, at least in this type, and so we're learning a lesson every day on it. The problem is, we just don't want to do anything wrong. We want to do it right, and we want to do it 100% right. And, we're not sure exactly which way to go with that at this point. But we do have some, legislative, changes that we would like to look at and see if y'all would entertain that to your Senate bill that you have out that from last year. And, there's also some, 49, 15, 17 changes that are needed. Sandy was, helped me write, the author on a lot of this stuff, so I'd like to bring her and let her talk about it if I could. And, Sandy, if you can just sit up here and talk, if that's all right with y'all.
The first change noted was to 49-15-17-1E. First one's very easy. It just states 27-15-27. It should state 49-15-27. And the second, issue with that one is that it references 27-19-56-10. But when you go to 27-19-56-10, that statute says that $20 of the tag fee will go to Heritage, and then the additional fees will go to Coastal Preserve. There's no mention in the oyster fund in that statute. So we either need to delete this site from the oyster statute or add a reference to the oyster statute in 50%. That makes sense. And then the second statute that's cited there is 27-19-56.27. That was, to establish a DMR distinctive tag, and that never finalized because they were supposed to have submitted 300 signatures by July 2017, and that didn't happen. So you need to delete it from this statute and refill that other statute. I know that's one of your goals. Okay. So what we've added in 49-15-27 as potential language is, on page 2, the department has the authority to establish a system to determine qualification of applicants. We've worked on our regulations along with the statute, and we took out a lot of the percentages of cultivation and things like that. What we're left with is, what area do you want to lease? What's your experience in this area? And what's your financial stability? So that's what we want to, the classification of the area they want to lease. And so we're not getting into that 20% of this and 10% of this like we talked about in the meeting. So we just took all that out. So, and then we would have the authority to determine the qualifications of the applicant based on the system we establish. Applicants will be prioritized based on their demonstrated level of experience in oyster cultivation and their financial stability. It kind of goes along there. And then if they're qualified, then we can make a lease with them. If they're not qualified, we have to notify them in writing specifically why they're not qualified or why we can't lease. Yes. And, we made that point in here that, if, even if they don't have experience in it, if they have the financial ability to do it, we will still lease to them as long as someone with experience hasn't applied for that same area.
If I could, real quick on that. The main thing that we want to do what's right for the state of Mississippi and what's right for the estuary and the fishermen themselves, the oarsmen that are doing it. So what the idea was is, number one, way it was written before is first in, first out. Well, that means that if Joe Spraggins goes in there and says that I want to lease 400 acres and I have no experience and I have no financials to back it or anything else, but if I put it in, then I get the first choice. And then somebody else, like Sandy, comes over here and she's got 30 years experience and the finances to do it, well, she doesn't get the first choice on it. So we want to take that out and have it to where the department looks at that and they decide, and what is best for the estuary, what's best for the state of Mississippi is that Sandy would be the best at that point, because she has the experience and she has the ability to do it for its financial. And it's not going to just be somebody leasing it to maybe harvest what's there and then turn around and walk away from it. Does that make sense?
One thing that came up during the RFP process over the summer is that the financial responsibility, which accounted for, I think, 30% of the applicant's score, was simply a check the box. Do you envision having that, or do you envision the department actually requiring these applicants to provide some proof of their financial?
We're going to the requirement that they have to prove it to us. In other words, whenever you apply for if we go to this route of what we change here, this is all dependent that it gets changed, number one, right? And so what we will do at that point is that once you apply, then we'll take it and we'll look at it. And first thing we'll see is you're applying for an area that's legal, right, to be able to apply for. Second is, what is your experience? You have the experience to do anything with it. And you're going to have to prove that to us in writing, showing us what you can do. The next would be the financial. And you got to show us that you have the capability to be able to do it. It's not cheap to do oysters. You know, it's like $10,000 an acre if you want to cost one to start. So it's a lot of money to be able to do that. We need to know that you have the capability of doing it. In the past, I will take full blame for everything. When we did this last RFP, we didn't do a very good job. I'll take full blame to tell you that we didn't do a very good job on it. And that's my fault as the director of the agency. I should have oversaw it a little bit better and I understood what was going on more. I'm learning. I promise you, we're not going to make that same mistake twice. But the thing that happened was that we put too much experience in. I mean, if you just said you were financially able, you got 35 points. Didn't prove anything. And if you said that you were going to coach this, you got X amount of points. And didn't show any experience. I mean, you just put down that I got 10 years of experience. Well, 10 years of experience may be that you're a dredger out there and you're dredging them up for 10 years. We don't know what it was. We didn't do a very good job. We'd like to go back and readdress this. And we'd like to readdress it and look at it the right way and get it right. So this way we could take the experience and the finance to be the two most primary things that would be able to put someone in that business. Does that make sense? And one of the other things we wanted to take out was that 30 days. And where it had in there that we had to put it out for 30 days for public notice. Why? The state of Mississippi owns the bottom. We're not going to put anything in a riparian right. None of the bottoms that we're talking about leasing under this 80-30-20 deal that we did has anything to do with riparian rights. So nobody owns those bottoms but the state of Mississippi. And so it's got to be a lease with the state of Mississippi through DMR and the Secretary of State. And the Secretary of State gives us permission to do that. And so it's just 30 days for no reason. And we'd like to see that go away. And one of the other options there was for someone, if I had a lease and I passed away, it was to give my family first rights to be able to do it. Well, I think that's okay. That's not a problem to have that, but it doesn't need to be that 30 days for that. That's entirely different for every lease. And that's what we're talking about. Did I leave out something, Sandy?
Another thing that came up in our last process was that we needed the authority to be able to reconfigure the leases that they had actually, that they wanted. And so we put it for business, I'll approve it, that we do have that ability to look at the lease, reconfigure it based on experience and finances. And then if we do reconfigure, we discuss that with the applicant. And if they don't want that area, they have the right to cancel their application and get the money back.
Plus, it had to be right angles. You know, every lease had to have right angles, so it's a square or either a rectangle, and the rectangle could be no more than twice the length of the width. Why? You know, why don't we make it where you can utilize the space if there's 200 acres sitting here, and it's like this, but you can't make it right angles to make it work and use all of it. You know, if we want to use it the right way, let's make it to where we can form it to the best availability of the space that is legal at that point. And the other thing is too, you know, you get a lot of, when you're talking to a lot of the oystermen, especially the ones with experience and all, they've talked about, you know, if I go in there and say I want 400 acres, I may not need, but 300 of it's all ever going to be used. So I need to be able to modify that. And I need to be able to modify what I'm doing and say, I'm not going to mulch that because it's mud. I'm not going to ever use it. So I need to be able to mulch what's usable and spend my money in the right way. And the ones that have been doing this for a business understand that. And they understand what they're talking about, and they know how to make money, and they know how to move the product. And that's the most important thing, is to be able to get the product in the water and be able to clarify the water and do the things that we need to do for the estuary. But to take that out is another thing about the right angles, and then also the double, you know, the rectangle. And just make it to where we can, I mean, if we just have you to where you define the corners of your lease some way. And we'll do that by using coordinates and UTM type coordinates or whatever, you know, that you can utilize. And then that'll better define what we're talking about. And the other thing, when she was talking about right now, if I got 500 acres here, and I want to lease 300 of it, and Sandy wants to lease 300 of it. Well, we pick the one that is the most qualified to get first choice, right? And they get 300. Well, the other may only have 200, but we can also modify their lease to go to 200 and take the other 200 if that's what they want to do. And the way it's written now, we can.
And I think for the committee's clarification, we have about 14,000 acres total that's permitted that's available to lease.
12, yeah.
12,000. Of those 12, how many thousands of acres were applied for in the last RFP process?
About 8,000, I think it was.
Yeah.
6,000 to 8,000.
So it wasn't, the idea, my point being that it wasn't the entire
No,
permitted
sir.
area.
No, sir.
There wasn't that much competition. So giving you some authority to negotiate with the applicants so everybody gets to fit within the permitted area, at least for this initial go-round, is probably not going to create a tremendous amount of conflict amongst the applicants.
Most of the applicants most of the applications were for something that's historically been a reef and has, you know, culch on it at this time. So they know that they can utilize it, and they know that they can make it work. As I said, to go over here and take a mud bottom and try to figure out if you're gonna make it work, you know, you gotta go in and check it and do all kinds of stuff, and you don't know where it's gonna work or not. And, you know, you might go and someone might say, well, you know, I want this area over here of 100 acres, but I don't know if it's gonna work or not. Well, they're gonna pay $3 an acre for one time. Go in and find out it doesn't work, say, I don't want it. And, you know, but the ones that, yeah, past Marianne, St. Joe, and other places, you know, that have a historical reef on it. And that's what's being used most of the time. And we're doing both the east and western sound, so that's another thing.
Senator Delano, you had a question?
Anything else that we left out on that? there's one other issue too, 49-1538, and, in the old way it was stated before, it talks about barrels of, shells, now it's sacks of shells. And, it's just a better way for us to maintain. Any questions on any of those things that we're looking at, if, that, change the statute?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director. I appreciate you coming before us today. Also appreciate your leadership and standing up and taking responsibility for some of these things and making the corrections as necessary. The one thing that I've had some comments on has been the financial aspect of the application. You used the word financial stability. I've heard financial fitness. I've heard a lot of different words that have been used. I think we're all trying to get to the same thing, but I believe that there should be a very clear definition of what we're looking for per 100 acres or per something. There should be something that's well-defined so that an applicant will know and the public will know why or where the scoring falls in on that. So that's all that I wanted to say, because I don't understand stability. Senator Carter's financial stability and my financial stability may mean two different, well, they do mean completely different worlds. I don't buy jet fuel, but I can buy diesel fuel. So I don't know what that really means in context of determining how we're going to award leases. And I just think that would be a little bit better if we had a better definition defined up front before applicants make their submittals.
We can look at that, and matter of fact, and we'll maybe get with the finance and and talk about it with Jackson and whatever. Get with Liz and them and get a good clarification of what's the best way to put the wording in there. So definitely want the right wording. And the main thing is, can you afford to do it? And now, how do we say that? If that's what you're asking.
Yeah, and I don't want an applicant, or I don't think it's necessary for an applicant to be required to post some kind of a bond, or it's going to be an additional charge for them for a cost. But I do think that it's very important for us to understand, to impress upon these applicants what the financial cost is going to be to properly manage the system or manage their leased areas over time.
And, I understand that, Senator, exactly what you're talking about. I mean, as you said, I don't need to know if you can buy a jet. I need to know, can you cost the area and can you do what you need to do? That's exactly what I need to know. And we can come up with what the price it costs to do it, but now it varies according to where you're leasing. Because if you take, like, past Mary Ann, that's got great colt on it right now and everything else, then it's not going to cost you near as much to maintain that as it is to maintain a new one. And so we can try to put some kind of, I just don't want to get myself caught up into wrong wording. I want to make sure I get the right one.
I have a question, General. Does not produce oysters. So we have an individual who holds a lease of 400 acres. What are the requirements? I mean, we don't want them to sit out there and hold a prime area within our Gulf and not put the spats on them or the clutch and produce on it, but they just want to sit there and hold it for, a year without production. That we're getting totally away from what this ultimate goal is for.
They have to turn in an annual report to us, what they're doing. And whenever they're going to cults, they have to let us know they're culting so we can be monitoring it, see what they're doing. As far as the harvest, we'll obviously get that because they have to have the tags to harvest, and we'll work from that point. But we have some rules in it, and I was trying to find them right here.
Do we have an? If they don't put these things, okay, this will take me up. I got it here, General.
Okay.
I was making sure that we actually had an out while we're fixing things. If we've had to put a time limit, if in 1 year you don't work that particular acreage, we got to have an out. We can't allow.
states in there that you gotta do 50% of it within 5 years, and you gotta do at least 20% in this amount of time. There's rules of what you have to do. And now, I mean, it's just like, that if Joe Spraggins goes in and leases this 300 acres, and I found out 100 of it is not usable, then I just tell you, I wanna give it back. You know, I'm not gonna pay for it anymore. I'm at these 100 acres, you can do whatever you want to with it, and I wanna modify my lease, and that's what they would do. And, but for someone just to be able to go in and lease the property and never use it, just to hold it from someone else, we have a, way to stop that. We have a way that they have. Yeah, we don't want someone buying it up just to hold it. So $3 an acre is not much, you know. Right. You're exactly right. And, one other thing, you know, I've talked to Senator Thompson on this a little bit. But anyway, I talked to him, about this. One of the things we need to do, it's not about the executive director, and what we want to do at the state, at the agency as to write this. We need to write it in some form of statute here that covers whoever's here after that. We need to make sure that whoever's here, that you just can't change a rule that just for the fun of it and move it to something else. We need to take care of these fishermen. We need to take care of the process and everything else. So we need to put the right wording in the statute to be able to cover that.
Does any other member have a question for General? Senator Seymour?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you'd back up to your, first on your legislative proposals, 49, 15, 84, in your crab,
Crab traps?
yeah, is there anything, I don't see anything by definition as far as the senior citizens that buy the one-time license? Will this new license that they would have to have for their?
I think, help me if I'm wrong here, Patrick, but a commercial license is what we are, private license. You have to buy that. Seniors are not exempt on that. That's only for fishing, that they're, you know.
Recreational fishing, will they have to have the license?
They have to have a crab trap license.
And is that carry a fee with it?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And the other question I had is dealing with the shrimping with cast nets. I don't see no definition as far as the difference between grill and cast, or y'all just
Now,
assuming?
we discussed that a while ago a little bit, but, yeah, but,
Okay.
but that's, yeah, basically, you know, the cast net itself is something that you can throw, and you can actually just cast off of an area and be able to do it, and, not something like you would do a gill net or any type of net, that you could go ahead and hook something and move it over here and then pull it back to you. A cast net is a hand thrown net.
Okay. I just didn't see a definition.
And if it needs to be put in there, we'll definitely, if you think that's something, we can look at that. That's it.
All right, House is about to. Us, after Delano's question.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Senator Sparks is here. I know that he had a couple of questions that he wanted to ask from, regarding Tishomingo County.
Mr. Chairman, I ate redfish for lunch. Thank you.
If I can, sir, anything that, we're open to anything that y'all come up with, if it's something that you're looking at. And I know, that, Chairman Anderson had mentioned to me talking about it, and just also hear about the process of what we're doing with our speckled trout, 15 inches, 15. You know, we're doing a new assessment on it. I can tell you the assessment we had last year is not something you want to publicize out because it wouldn't look as good because of the water and what happened. We are seeing an effect off the Bonnie Carey. And that, you know, because of the spawning during that time and what happened, we're seeing an effect from that. I honestly don't think we're gonna change 15-15. If we did, we go 15-10, where you have 10 fish and 15 inches. And I know this doesn't match up to Louisiana, and I know it's a big thing with Louisiana. And, you know, the people, especially if you go over there and catch a fish and then you turn around and come back into Mississippi waters. Now, we are looking at something, Chairman Anderson, we're looking at something that we can do to, how can we patrol that better to where if you want to stop and try to catch triple tail or you want to catch something, you know, on a buoy or whatever, then can you do that? How can we manage that? How can we make this work better so that we don't jeopardize our fishermen that are going to Louisiana and catching the 13-inch fish and then come and put a hook back in the water somewhere in Mississippi waters? So we are looking at that to try to come up with an answer.
Appreciate that. That's very helpful. I think that was the biggest concern. You know, when triple tail started, they all want to run, but they got to be in Mississippi waters to do them. I think that's going to address it more than the actual.
It is, and you know, we're doing this Mississippi Creel, MS Creel, which is lined up with LA Creel, which is Louisiana's, and that's the one that came out so well with NOAA to be able and them to be able to come back and get the allocation of fish they wanted. So what we got, we worked it out with NOAA, and NOAA's paying for this. And so they're helping us do it, and we're gonna do Alabama and Mississippi are going to do a joint LA Creel, Mississippi Creel, Alabama Creel together for 1 year this year, and we're gonna go married up against that and see what our product comes out, and hopefully we'll be able to do a new assessment by next year, and it will be able to get us back more in line to where we should be with especially our snapper. And they'll also include, though, by doing this, we'll include a speckled trout and redfish and other things will be included in it. And so we'll be able to get a better assessment of where we're at. I know that y'all have given us money to help do whatever we need to do if we need to come out from under MREP. And I have tried to do everything I can to keep from having to threaten NOAA any more than I have to. But this came up, and when NIMS and Andy Stelchak, who is over it, decided that this is the right way to go and we'll support it. I think this is worth an effort for 1 year to see where we're at. And if not, then we'll have to go to another action.
Will this be similar to the Tails and Scales platform?
It will, it's a little more in depth, a lot more in depth. It'll be more under a survey type, and we'll do mail-in surveys and other things. And the other thing that we've done, and I know that Senator Carter had a question to me yesterday about, was our offshore reef permit. All right, I sent every one of the coastal delegation, but if anybody else wants it, we had something sent to you this morning about it. But basically what that is right now, there's about 80,000 saltwater fish licenses sold a year. Well, now NOAA says there's 80,000 people fishing in the Gulf of Mexico, and they're going down and they're doing offshore fishing. And so they use that as a sample site. Well, that gives us a lot larger number of people fishing that are actually doing the offshore fishing. You know, majority of the people aren't doing that. And you know, the majority of people aren't going 40 miles out, 30 miles out. They're staying inside the sound area or the islands. So what we're doing now is by doing this, it's at no cost. You just go in, and when you go to purchase your license, you go to another spot, just like if you want to do a migratory bird license or something else, you know, you go to it and you punch on it and it says, yes, I want to buy, I want this. You don't buy it, it's free. And, but it gives us a smaller sample size. And when our smaller sample size comes down, and maybe it's 25,000 instead of 80 that buy this, or not buy it, but I purchase, I select it, then NOAA can only survey those 25,000, not that. And then that gives us a lot smaller sample size to be able to get the numbers down to where we should be. So I hope y'all understand that. It's not anything to hurt the fishermen. I promise you, we're not going to, this year, if you don't have it, we're not going to write you a ticket. We're going to tell you about it and ask you to do, you know, this is what you need to do. It's the same thing we do every time. We'll give you a grace period to work it in, but we're asking that you do it if at all possible, because the quicker we do it, the better we're going to have a better chance to get allocated.
So the goal is to increase the limit, correct?
Goals to increase the allocation of reef fish for the state of Mississippi. because especially in speckled trout right now, we should have 150, 160,000 pounds. They cut us back to 62,000 last year because of that sample. And so we were able to go to 82,000, or right at 80,000, but we need to do this. This is something that's gonna really help us to be able to get us back to where we need to be.
Understood. And we appreciate the effort there, General, because that is an issue for a lot of guys on the coast where, running out for 2 fish per person.
Yeah, and
Nuts.
And I apologize if we didn't get the word out correctly on that, because we did put it out for public notice and had 0 for 30 days. Nobody even commented one thing on it. So we did put it out, but I mean, you know what? I didn't get it on your jet, but I will get it on there next time.
Any other questions from the committee? All right, General, again, we appreciate your time. We'll look forward to working with you and with Sandy on some of these revisions to the bottom leasing program. And then I believe, Chairman Anderson has dropped the general legislation already. So we'll just run those through his House bill plan.
Well, thank y'all, and I tell you, doing a joint's great, because it's easy for us to be able to talk to all of you at one time. We appreciate that for both y'all wanting to be able.
Bringing efficiency to state government, General. That's what we're all about.
All right, thank you.